IVM.
News Kids on the Block. We bring to you stories that top the nation's papers, fresh from the Ascend National School and IVM desk. Hi, I'm Kavya.
I'm Anya.
And I'm Trivik.
And welcome to this episode of News Kids on the Block, where we give you all the top news updates of the week. So for today's episode, we decided to do something a little different. So there are the three of us, and we're all going to be doing one segment. And my segment, which we will start off with today, is related to technology. And technology is something that we are seeing becoming more and more abundant, more and more common, more and more important as time progresses. And I've found two very interesting stories related to technology. So the first story I have is in Madhya Pradesh, where 5 different drone schools are to be set up in Gwalior, Bhopal, Indore, Jabalpur, and Satna. And these schools will train youngsters in drone technology, teach them more about drones, and open up new employment opportunities for them to become better and more advanced. This was taken under the series of events planned under the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav celebration in the Drone Mela. And this was announced by Jyotiraditya M. Sindhya, who is the Minister of Civil Aviation. And he also said that in the coming future, drone technology will bring significant changes in the world's economy. It is a matter of pride that Madhya Pradesh is the first state in the country in advancing the use of drone technology at such a big scale. And before I talk about what this means, I'm going to move on to our next story and then do a bit of a roundup at the end. Our next story is in Dubai, where the Crown Prince of Dubai, Hamad bin Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, announced that Dubai has become the world's first government to go entirely paperless. And this was a result of Dubai's paperless strategy, which was launched in 2018. So basically now everything, all the internal external procedures of the government of Dubai are now fully digital and fully online. And I think this is good for not only the fact that it's becoming more and more important in today's world and technology is advancing so much that we are capable of doing all these things, but also if you think about it on an environmental scale, the amount of paper that will be saved, and this was estimated to be around 72.5 million sheets. And we're seeing so many benefits of this like fully digital thing, because it's really important to see why becoming more familiar and becoming more advanced with technology will really make a difference, and why it is becoming more important in today's day, where we are seeing everything slowly progressing over to the other side. And instead of using paper and physical hard copies, we're seeing people starting to move and shift towards using online and digital processes, which is obviously a lot easier and more convenient. So I think it's really important in today's world to be more familiar with that. With that, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
Have you ever wondered where the business world is headed? How the ways in which we create, market, and sell to consumers will evolve? Or if we'll ever go back to wearing pants while working? For answers to all of this and more, tune into Advertising is Dead with me, Varun Dugirala. Every Tuesday, as I talk to entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers from across business, media, marketing, and beyond. You can catch all episodes of Advertising is Dead on the IVM Podcasts website, app, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Welcome back to News Kids on the Block. I'm your host, Anya. And my segment for today is about, honestly, just women in India excelling. I'll start by talking about the NDA. We've talked about this in previous episodes, like when the Supreme Court and the center had a whole brawl, and not really a brawl, but they really talked about this, and they made sure that women would be allowed to take the SSB and to be in the NDA. And based off of that, they revised the vacancy notice. And they have allowed, like the SSB exam was conducted on November 14th, 2021. While as of the time we're recording this, we haven't yet gotten the results of them. They have told us the number of seats that will be allowed for women. So this is like a little bit numbery, but I think that these are really interesting numbers, like put into context. 208 posts are allotted in the army. So that rounds up to 10 in the army. So 10 plus 3 in the Navy plus 2 in the Air Force plus 2 in the Air Force again plus 2 in the Air Force again. There are 19 posts allotted for females out of 400 posts in total, which is, I don't actually know if that's good or bad, but it's definitely a start, because for the first time, like, they can actually do attend these things. Of course, like to be in all of these. Now, the SSB has multiple stages as part of their interview. So they have the exam, of course, that they conduct, and then after the exam, they've also got a physical fitness test, a personality test, essentially, and lastly, not to mention the medical test, which is crucial. Like I know somebody who he got into NDA and then he had really flat feet, and so he could not continue on in. So that medical test is really this thing. And even I don't know how factually accurate this is, but even if you watch like Gunjan Saxena, like her height and stuff doesn't match up, but then her arms are really long in the movie, of course. So she like can make it through. So yes, this is some very exciting news, and hopefully we will see these women in action and getting the recognition that they deserve. The next story that we have for you today is about how India's Harnaaz Sandhu brought home the Miss Universe crown after 21 years. The last actress to win it was Sushmita Sen in 1994 and then Lara Datta in 2000. She represented India at the 70th Miss Universe and it was held in Israel. She's originally from Punjab, and the second and the third place were given to somebody from Paraguay and South Africa, respectively. She a video of her went viral as she screamed like "Chakte Fatte India," which kind of means like "Let's go India." And it was really cool. And I thought that this was an interesting story just from a standpoint of like on a worldwide beauty scale. I think it's really hard to find representation of Indian women being considered beautiful without like sticking to really, really niche things or being categorized as exotic or something else. And I think that seeing somebody like her on a grand scale of like Miss Universe, even though it's a beauty pageant or something, I think it just shows that like it's people who look like me or talk like me can be considered beautiful too from like a media point of view or like a Western point of view. And of course, none of that matters because beauty is just a standard and it's just a convention. But yeah, and it's like boundless, but I really just thought that it was really nice to see some of that representation in my lifetime. And, I felt like I could kind of relate with the things, even if you hear like the stuff she talked about in other parts of the competition, like I felt like she's a really good voice that embodied a lot of what like a modern Indian woman can be. And then the last story that I have in my Indian women who are killing it segment, if you will, is of course Leena Nair. She was appointed the global CEO of Chanel, which is a global fashion brand. And she went to like a convent school in Kolhapur and then did her engineering in Sangli. And then she started her career in 1992 as a summer trainee with Hindustan Unilever. And she really worked her way up, becoming the first female on their management committee. And then eventually their youngest executive director. She even moved the company's headquarters in 2013 to London. She's just made a lot of history within that itself. Earlier this year, she was number 16 in Fortune's list of most powerful Indian women in the world. And she will be replacing Chanel's co-founder, Elaine Worthmere, who privately owns it. So I think this is really cool because it's so interesting. Also, I think now very recently, which connects back to my previous story, we see like media trying constantly to diversify or make beauty or fashion more inclusive. And then their official statement for hiring Leena Nair, they emphasized her, and I quote, global reputation for progressive and human-centered leadership, delivering significant business impact. So some interesting stories to get you through and to channel your inner girl boss, if you will. And with that, we will take a break.
Hey everybody, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Cyrus Says, Cyrus is joined by 90s icon and musician Remo Fernandez. They discuss his autobiography, his life, and a whole lot more. On Storytellers and Storysellers, Vineet is joined by stand-up comedian, podcaster, and now musician Akash Mehta about his journey in stand-up comedy and his upcoming debut album, What a Life. On the Talle Harate Kannada podcast, Pawan speaks to PL Uday Kumar. He's a technologist and history researcher, and they discuss digital 3D scanning technology being used to conserve Bengaluru's rich heritage of inscription stories. On Speakeasy, Dheeraj is joined by one of India's most sought-after influencers, Raj Shamani. And on the All Things Policy podcast, the Takshashila folks discuss the gender inequalities that exist in the fashion world. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And also do check out our YouTube channels. We have a number of them. You can get them on ivmpodcast.com/YouTube. And remember, if you're enjoying this show, or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. It really does help us spread the word. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors for the network this week, Cred, Bank of Baroda, CoinSwitch, Kuber, Intel, and Oxfam India. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Welcome back to News Kids on the Block. I'm your co-host Trivik Hariharan, and today our last few stories. Our last segment, we've had Kavya, we've had Anya, and now it's time for me to take you through our sports updates of the week. As we go over to the world of F1, as we saw the 2021 F1 season come to an end in Abu Dhabi on Sunday. And it was one of the most thrilling races there have ever been in this competition, if not the most thrilling. And I actually watched it. I've never been an F1 fan until this weekend. And I have to say, I was left speechless. That was an insane race. And so let me just walk you through what exactly happened this weekend. So first off, on Saturday, the drivers raced to decide who would be in which position. That's how it works in F1. I think I'm an amateur, so please forgive me if I'm wrong. They raced to decide who will be in which position. Verstappen finished in pole, which means he would be at the front of the race, while Hamilton was close behind him in second. And the two, while this was supposed to be an advantage for Verstappen, he ended up losing his pole position very early on in the race, in fact, in the first lap itself. And Hamilton was mostly in control of the race until there was a twist in the tail, they might say, when Latifi, who was another driver, he crashed. And there was a safety car sent onto the track. Essentially, all drivers have to stay behind the safety car. And this let Verstappen cut down a big chunk of the difference between him and Hamilton, because Hamilton was soaring away to win his 8th ever F1 title. With the help of the safety car, Verstappen got really close to him and provided for a show-stopping end, which saw Verstappen narrowly overtake Hamilton and win not only the race, but however the entire title for the 2021 F1 season in a very controversial race, as people don't believe that Verstappen should have been allowed to overtake Hamilton. However, all claims have been denied, and Verstappen is the official world champion of the F1. And I think there will be many more wins to come for this man in the future, because he is a superb driver and he's still very young. To beat a man like Lewis Hamilton with Lewis Hamilton's experience and how good he is, to beat him at the top level of racing is incredible. And I think Verstappen will see a lot of success to come in his career. Moving on to our next story for the day, however, this is one I did in fact not see live. However, it means a lot to me, as Steph Curry broke the all-time record for threes recorded in the NBA. So early this morning at 5:30, 7 minutes and 33 seconds into the game at the Madison Square Garden, Warriors versus Knicks, Steph Curry hit his 2,977th career three-pointer shot, which saw him be the record holder of most three-pointers in the NBA ever, as he surpassed Ray Allen's record of 2,976. And he couldn't have done it in a better place, because, Madison Square Garden means a lot to him. He was almost drafted there. He had his first big game there in 2013, where he hit 54 points against the Knicks. And he couldn't have chosen a better place to do it. And it is truly incredible how far Curry has come and how good this man is, because he was the 7th draft pick when he was first introduced to the NBA. And I think that now he can be included in the conversation with your MJ, with your LeBron. Still controversial, I know, but that's just my take on it. Curry is a super player, and even the ever humble man is comfortable calling himself the greatest shooter of all time. All of you should be as well, because what he's done with his career proves just that, and he's also showing no signs of stopping. So who knows how many he's going to hit by the time he finally hangs up the boots.
And that is all we have for you for today. Thank you for listening to New Kids on the Block.
If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network.
You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on our social media. We are at IVM Podcast on Twitter and Instagram.
We'll see you next week. Till then, do share this episode with your folks. Stay safe and don't forget to do your homework.
If you're a cricket fan, check out Edges and Sledges, India's favorite cricket podcast.
The podcast focuses on Indian cricket, the IPL, and has a ton of banter both on and off the field.
We talk about the week's biggest cricket stories with current and ex-international cricketers, coaches, or sometimes just between us.
And it's hosted by me, DJ.
Me, Varun.
And me, Ashwin.
New episodes release every week.
You can catch us on the IVM Podcasts website, app,
or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Check out the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast.
Eventually, you'll see the end of your childhood,
get accustomed to womanhood,
enjoy the experience of sisterhood,
might get to wifehood
or not, choose motherhood
or not. You'll learn to define your personhood,
Earn a livelihood,
change the neighborhood.
and get rid of the falsehood that life post-academia is easy.
So join me, Ritasha,
And me, Ayushi,
on a journey from station starting point.
to station, what now?
Next station, Pudin station, and hopefully, Agla station, adulthood.
Fresh episodes out every Thursday.